You're in tune to International Broadcast Media, and of course, we have all kinds of great guests. And I hope that folks have been enjoying this unseasonable like weather because it has definitely been during the course of this particular week, anywhere from the 70s to the 50s, but definitely not in the more chiller or colder kind of weather that some people are used to, particularly in December as we head into the Christmas month and all of that. So that is some of the things that have been going on. I noticed some of my friends that are in a political office were getting sworn in earlier this week. So that is always a fun thing for those that have been campaigning and found that they were going to be the victors in that kind of category. So they were definitely coming into office and they will try to deal with the various issues that are going on in our city, which might include everything from housing to crime to a number of other things that people are very much concerned about. And of course, a lot of people are paying attention still because we're still, 2 years into it, into this whole pandemic. And that has definitely impacted a lot of my musician friends, but they are not letting that stop them from doing what they love, which is performing and performing any way that they can. A lot of times they're doing things from their home, they're doing things in that regards, and in some cases they are doing recordings because in some cases the venues have not been open, but we do know that more and more venues are becoming open because I work at a cultural arts center here in Durham, North Carolina, and I know that they've done some events, both those that have been virtual as well as some that are live. So that is what is happening in this part of the world, but it is also impacting people from other parts of the globe as well. So I'm going to bring in my new friend who I met through Eric, and Eric was a great podcaster, live streamer in his own right, and definitely he has brought me some amazing guests. And one of those is Rachel Walker and her Rachel Walker Trio. So we're going to learn more about how she got involved in the musical realm and how she has been doing this entire pandemic as a performer and just her life philosophies and things along those lines. Who knows? May find out that she's related or something like that, since I do have an uncle whose last name is Walker as well, but he's the Walkers from North Carolina. And like I said, that was through the wonders of marriage as he married my Aunt Julie, and they have been together for quite a number of years. So, like I said, I do have some Walkers in the family through that wonderful thing called marriage, since he married my aunt, my mother's sister, and all of that. But who knows? May find out that she is a distant relative or something along those lines. So we'll find out more about Miss Rachel and how she even got involved in the music world. So, Rachel, I saw we were having a little bit of issues of trying to have the wonders of technology. You got to love technology, because sometimes you also have to hate it as well. So, definitely glad to see you coming at me all the way from another part of the globe. But you've got your trio that you do work with, and you are a wonderful lady and an amazing musician. I know that Eric has shared some stuff with me, and I've had the pleasure of getting some information from you as well. So I'd love to learn more about your musical journey and how you even discovered the music that you are passionate about in your part of the world. And by the way, how are things going in your part of the world?
Well, I think things are all right where I am. It's snowy and cold out, and great for being creative inside. But I'm sure that we're all struggling with sort of the same issues in this day and age, but that just brings us all closer together, and maybe we can pull together as people.
No doubt, that's what we need to do is pull together and definitely get some more unity. And definitely, I know a lot of people are trying to cope as gigs during these latter parts of the pandemic or in the last couple of months, because like I said, I do have some friends that are starting to get out more than they had, say, in the early part of the pandemic, but they are not as getting nearly as many gigs as they would like. And I sit on the board of a couple of organizations here, including the Carolina Theater, and I do know that we have started having live performances, but we'd like to have more live performances, but it's all a process as more and more things open. And of course, they are trying to make sure that people are properly protected if they are coming in to the performance venues. So, how has things been going for you in that regards?
They've been going good. I mean, I think that it's wonderful to be able to do shows and to be having a live audience. But I think when you're a musician and it's something you need to do, I think all you musicians just keep picking up your guitars and playing and singing and making music and dance in your house if you have to, but don't put it down until you do have an audience. Always keep your creativity going and spread that love and those good vibes, because I know that when you go through things, music's probably one of the most strengthening, amazing things. It touches your soul, and it just it gives you it helps you walk the higher life, like Robert Frost said. Walking the higher road. Well, music kind of brings you there, and you can keep going no matter what the world is pulling away from you. So, yeah, just keep on playing and keep on singing.
Oh, I love that attitude. When did you first discover your own musical talents? And when did you first realize that you were a um, musician and your own gift of music?
Yeah, that's interesting because I grew up in a small town and we didn't have a lot of music really. We had radio, and we had the classic rock on the radio, and so I would just didn't really I'd pick up my guitar and play music on my own. Songs kind of came to me, but I wasn't really pursuing music. I was more into athletics, basketball, volleyball. So, but later on in life, I just kept writing songs, and they just developed in me. I picked up the guitar and learned it more, and people would bring me into like to places to play and sing. So I would go there, and they'd kind of promote me for without me kind of knowing it. So um, the yeah, it just kept developing that way, and then I started to really find that I couldn't live without the music, and it just
Hmm.
became take took more and more of a precedence in my life, and now I just can't not make music. It does something to you, and it's a beautiful form of art, and I'm really honored to have that ability to do that. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
no doubt. How much of your upbringing, because as I was reading some of the bio, and while most of my family identifies as African American, I do have some cousins that identify more in the First Nation part of their life, and some of them are even involved in the powwow culture, attending the powwows on a regular basis. And I did see that you were actually raised in a First Nation reservation. So, how much has that impacted your music? And do you incorporate any of those sounds into your music? Because I noticed that a lot of the music is very much nature based, and a lot of times that's what I think of when
Mm.
I think of music from the First Nations, whether that's in the powwow circuit or some of the other circuits that exist as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town. My dad is a linguist, and my mom was a teacher, and we were on the reserve just to be part of the people, not to be too far away and to learn more about them. Grew up in a one room shack that was no insulation, and we had to haul our water and take baths in a basin. So I got to meet people on their level, the where they were living. It was a beautiful time. My best friends were all native, so I have multicultural um, and a multicultural upbringing.
Mhm.
So as far as I'd say, you know what, if you wanted to say the influence of the people that I was with as a child, it would be the fact that they were very real and
Mhm.
authentic. And when they would come to your house, they could just sit on the couch and not say a word, but they're being with you, and
Right.
and so they taught me some of those values of just be authentic and be real. So yeah, I think that me growing up in nature, sure, I think that of course God is in nature, and you can see His handiwork everywhere. So of course it influences you if you have soul searching, then you might write about nature. But I've always loved nature. I think it's beautiful. Like I paint and I'm an artist, so I find that that's probably just, I think beauty influences me. I love to seek beauty, and so if it's nature or people, then that would be where my inspiration would come from for sure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I was curious about is that you have also um, had the pleasure, probably because of your parents, of traveling around both Canada and the United States. So, how much is that kind of being somewhat of a nomad influenced your music as well? Because I know that you spent some time in Chicago, you definitely spent some time in California, and you spent part of your life in the various parts of Canada as well. So, I'm just wondering what kind of influence that had in your musical development.
Oh, I agree 100. I think it does because some of the top bands like Chicago,
Mhm.
and I love their music, and they're great musicians. And then in California, of course, you're hearing all kinds of the top 40 down in California when you're visiting your relatives or whatever. Um, and then in Canada, probably just they picked a lot. Where I grew up, it was much more heavy rock.
Mhm.
Nazareth and things like that. Nazareth would come and play once in a while in our small town. So, yeah, definitely where you live, the music is the music culture will be a little bit different for sure. So, I think all of the above. I think that any musician has an ear for good sound.
Right.
So, if it's a good song and it's good music, you're going to like it. It's just the way it goes.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. And I know that you also are pretty much of a singer-songwriter, and that's very much of a popular style here in North Carolina. I actually know some people that
Hmm.
belong to singer-songwriter groups, and definitely some that even do what my friend Alberta, I mean, not Alberta, Alexandria May, who used to have a show here on our network, would call singing in the round kind of um, talent showcases and things along those lines because she's from South Africa, but she spent a lot of time in
Hmm.
Nashville as well. So they do a lot of those kind of um, events that were geared toward the singer songwriter, particularly those in coffee houses and those that are even parts of certain kinds of festivals and things along those lines. So, how important were those kind of venues in your own musical journey? Those kind of like
Hmm.
coffee house settings and even the
Hmm.
festival settings.
Yeah, so I would do a lot of those folk fests and things like that, and I loved people. I liked being there with the people connecting,
Hmm.
and so it is important, and it is harder to be isolated away from people because we love to connect and we love to take our art and connect with people. And I think there's something really amazing. There's just a really amazing feeling for everyone when the music's right there in the room, and you feel that amazing feeling of just all of the sounds that are so incredible. Because sound itself and vibration is so um, profound in its own way, and it does make a difference. So, uh,
No,
yeah, I
definitely.
I miss that part
No, I miss that as well. I've
definitely.
played, I've done a couple of festivals. I've participated in some of the festivals, and actually this year we did have the Eno Festival, even though it was more of a hybrid festival, with one of the days being live, and the other day, it might have even been 2 days, but at least one of the days was virtual. Whereas last year it was entirely virtual, and we've seen that kind of hybrid mix as well as that mix of
Hmm.
it either being strictly virtual or strictly live, because I know that even as I mentioned, the board that I'm on, we were actually having that discussion because we decided that after we did a hybrid event that we didn't want to do it either that we wanted to do it either all of one way or all of the other. We didn't want to kind of like have that mix,
Mm.
either make it all virtual or all live, but not try to do that mix because then you're really doing what amounts to two events because you're doing a virtual event
Yeah.
and a live event, and that can be taxing on a small staff, to say the least, and everything. So that's why we
Yeah.
made that decision to go in that route of doing. I think we're leaning more toward a live event right now for next year
Mm.
and everything. But that being said, I do know because I come from a radio background as well. My parents actually
Oh.
started a community radio station when I was a preteen, and I'm now in my late 50s, about to hit the big six number next year. But I remember when they started that in the late 70s, like around 76, 77, and it was on for about somewhere around 10 or 12 years. And part of it was that they didn't see that there was enough jazz in our state, and particularly in the rural part of North Carolina that we grew up in. And they also felt that there was not enough um, attention being paid to both rural America as well as certain minority groups and things along those lines. So versus resident versus just complaining about it, they decided to do something about it, and they created a community radio station. One of the few in the country that I understand are not connected with a university, because a lot of times those are connected with universities. But I was just wondering, what was your radio experience like? That's just a little bit about my own, but what was your radio experience like?
Oh, I had so much fun doing radio. Like so I wasn't the techie. I was the creative person who would pull the show together and pick the
Right.
songs, and you know how you have to have a flow with your music and everything. So the techie guy, we had a lot of fun because we're locked in this little room, and usually the time we could get would be late at night when no one else wanted any airtime. And so we'd kind of get tired, and sometimes we'd get a little bit laughy, we try not to laugh too much. But one time one time we played this guy's it was a live show, and we were playing the put the radio, it was a record at that time, and we put the guy's song on, and he had forgotten, and it was in slow mo. So it was like whoa, and it was we got the giggles because it was not what it was supposed to sound like. So yeah, we had a whole lot of fun. I loved doing radio. I mean, it was a lot of work, like you worked to get that show all together. But I had so much fun, and I think one time they played a couple of my songs. That was way when I was just, starting and shy about my music. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Now that's real cool that they got a chance to play your music and everything. Have you ever thought about going back into radio, or are you content with doing the other forms of art that you're involved in, or is radio or voiceover work something that you have explored as well, or is that something that is beyond you in terms of like your past and not wanting to go back into that realm again?
Oh no, no. I'd like to do voiceover. I think that'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to do cartoon characters and things like that. We've got some puppets we want to work with just for fun. It's fun. But and I have done a few commercials, like jingles, wrote the jingles and sang for them. So that I don't mind that. I think that'd be fun. But back to a studio and radio, I don't know. I think I'm really passionate about making music, making my best music. I think that's my main goal, is to make really really good music, get that standard up there, and share it, because I really believe that we need music today, like maybe more than ever. I mean, we've always needed it, but it just really really does something for your intellect and your soul. So yeah, I'm just going to keep writing songs and singing and sharing it as much as I can, for sure.
It's interesting you say that because I've got some friends of mine, like I mentioned before, that are musicians of all sorts, of different styles of music, and that's one of the things that they all, to the person, whether it's man or woman, seem to talk about is that unifying factor of music. That a lot of times, if they're at a concert, they don't care whether the person is Democrat or Republican, whether they're gay or straight, whether they're black or white. That they really don't care. They're really more engaged in whatever that music is and how it's speaking to their heart. So I was just wondering, from your own perspective, if you could talk
Mm.
about that same kind of flavor and how music resonates with you, but also resonates with your audience.
Yeah, I think that music is higher than us, probably going to be written in the heavens. I don't think it's a waste of time, even if it's an audience of one. Sometimes I'll get up at night because I get music and I got to write it down, and I have a little recorder so that I can get it down and then go back to bed. And you know, I think that it's a great way to communicate, um, not only intellectually but from the soul.
Mhm.
And like you said, you can say words or people can misunderstand words or whatever, but that's music can just go right through to the very soul of someone, more than anything else can. So um, even though they say there's a glut of music or whatever, I still think that if you're a musician and it's what you've been made to do, you should do it. And even if it's just one or two that are going to hear your music or you sing it for your family, it's really important. That it's a special gift. I really don't think we value music like it really is and what it's really meant to be.
No, I can agree with you that we don't value music and everything. Um, as an independent musician, um, how do you feel about the state of radio, though? Because I know, like I said, I came from radio, and it was more that kind of nonprofit kind of radio station. It was definitely an NPR affiliate, and definitely I've also worked with low power radio stations, and I've worked with at least one other college radio station, which is North Carolina Central University, in the past, and I've definitely worked in kind of those independent spaces, like done some music programming even on things like Clubhouse and things of that nature. But I do know that some of my musician
Mm.
friends get frustrated because while they love the Chicago's and they love the Stevie Wonders and the more popular kind of music, even the Bruno Mars, they don't always feel that they are getting the same kind of recognition that they would like to get from our commercial radio stations. And a lot of times, you might hear the same thing in LA
Mm.
that you hear in Alberta, that you hear in New York, that you hear in New Orleans. So as an independent musician, what is your views about how the music is getting out there to the masses?
Yeah, that's like, I mean, money talks. And so most indies, they're in a different section of marketing. But that's why we use all these other venues and avenues that we can to get the music out there. But as far as radio goes, I super love radio. um, I think radio is one of the great things that we can keep, even with technology, that it's still worth something just to hear songs. But yeah, I mean, that's bigger than me. The way that the few are marketed, and there are many really talented musicians that don't get to be heard. So I mean, I just think you gotta do what you can, use whatever venues you can, and if it's meant to be heard, it will be heard.
Right. But we have also been seeing a lot of people using social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Clubhouse, which I mentioned earlier, or whether it's Facebook or a number of other outlets to get their music out. I know that I've even seen musicians that are independent um, using engagement spaces in some of those rooms where they're definitely almost having like private showcases or pushing people toward their websites and things along those lines. So, how important, particularly during this pandemic, has social media been in terms of getting your message and your music out?
Well, I think it's been really great, um, because you're taking your music. For example, my website's full of songs, and
Mhm.
then people pick up my music here and there. But it's fantastic because you're here in this one little small place, and the music gets spread through social media. There's a lot of ways you can be creative as a musician and get your music out there. You just have to, you know, you have to love it because it does take that work and effort. You're not, it's not just gonna, no one's gonna do it for you. So, there is that effort. But then, if you love it and you love people enough, then you'll just pursue the avenues that are working for you. There's a lot of avenues on social media now that you can, move your music or just even draw people to your website. And
No,
yeah, you just
no, I did.
trial and error, really.
Mhm. Speaking of trial and error, not all of the times. I mean, there are some musicians that are, but not all musicians are mostly talented in more than one medium. And that's one of the things that I was really admiring when I looked at your website is that you're not just
Oh,
a
thank
musician
you.
and a singer, but you're also a painter and a potter. And like I said, my dad is actually a artist in that sense as well, because he's got
Mm.
everything from photography to sound art to a number of other mediums that he is part of. And this is actually like his I want to say fourth or fifth career. I've lost track of them and everything as he is well into his early 80s and everything. But definitely, he is a fairly
Hmm.
well known local artist, and definitely, I would even argue, probably a regional artist as well. So Jim Lee has done a lot of great
Wow.
artwork with his Bamboo Turtles website and all of that. But I was just wondering, at what point did the painting and the pottery come into being, and did they kind of develop in conjunction with the whole development of your music as well, or were they separate interests that came up at
Hmm.
separate times?
I think when you're an artist, you love to try things. I mean, if I could just do art, I'd be so happy. But I think the painting just developed on its own. But it's more pleasure. I love to paint people. I like
Mhm.
to study their expressions and try and paint that. So painting for me is probably more just for pleasure. Um, and then I thought, well, why don't I paint some paintings for some of my songs? Because
Right.
then it's like making an extra, another media to use, another sense to use for your music. And I know that back in the day they used to say how much they loved records. Well, records are
Mhm.
still popular, and you open the cover, and then there's
Right.
all this artwork, and sometimes it's the musicians there that have done it, like with Fleetwood Mac. I think that one of the ladies did the artwork, but you know, um, we miss that. We miss those
Mhm.
senses because it's there's all those senses that love that find pleasure in art. So it's the paintings and the music. So I just thought, well, why don't I, since I love to paint anyways, just put those together as another element of the song. And then the pottery, that I just like, that's fun too. But then you can only do so many things, right? But oh, I love
Right.
to do pottery. I mean, there's so many creative ideas you can do with that. I mean, you could just get really funky mugs, and I used to make them and give them away for Christmas. But again, it's an expensive hobby. Pottery is an expensive hobby. You have to really take your time to do that one. But Mark, tell me about your dad because you said he's well known, and tell me about your music.
Well, like I said, my music is more on the radio side, so it's more being a radio DJ, and I've always been a fan of blues and jazz, but I have also listened to a number of other musical styles, and I have friends that are some of our local musicians that cover everything from neo country, because Reese Palmer is a family friend and has definitely been doing a lot of work in that space, and also both of the Freelons, Pierce and Nina, I've known for a while, and Nina's a jazz artist, whereas Pierce is a hip hop artist here in this area. And then I've got friends that even cover our rock community because I've got some friends that are part of a group called Pinkerton Raid, and another um, group of folks that I know that are part of a group called Beloved Binge, and both of those would be different variations of rock music. And I've even got some friends that are into heavy metal and into other styles of music because I've always been a big music fan and a big music lover. Like I said, while blues and jazz and R&B may be my go-to musics. I've also heard some amazing music from other cultures. Like I said, I've been involved in a lot of our festivals here, including Centerfest, which is our street festival, as well as the Eno Festival, which I mentioned earlier, and the Bull Durham Blues Festival. So I've had the pleasure of seeing all kinds of amazing musicians, including some that were doing music that I might not have even been as aware of just from my own personal background. Like Albanac, I believe, is a group out of Scotland, but they came here to go to the Highland tournament, and they also played at the So hearing those kind of like Scottish drums was very interesting. And then there's another group called Magnolia Klezmer, which, if I remember correctly, is like a Jewish band and things along those lines. So, like I said, I've had the pleasure of hearing all kinds of different sounds, including some Irish jig kind of music, and even a group that was called Project Mastana, which was like Indian pop music and things along those lines. So, having worked on a number of festivals, it's just always interesting learning different kinds of musical styles, and also, like I said, participated in even some unusual festivals. Like we had a festival here in Durham where we got people to literally marry the city. So it was called Marry Durham, and it was a way to kind of honor the what we wanted the city to do in terms of being a better city. So that was an event, was I want to say maybe about
Mm.
6 or 7 years ago. And I think some other cities, including I want to say some out in the West Coast, picked up on that idea and did their own variations. For some reason, Portland is coming to mind, but I know it was definitely done into the West Coast and maybe even other parts of the world. And like I said, I think we did it twice, the actual marriage event, and then I think we did an anniversary event. And then there was talk about doing another anniversary, because I think we're coming up on maybe the 10th anniversary or something like that. But it was really a way for people to make a commitment to make Durham the best city that it could be. So that's kind of what the vows were vows about doing things that were positive
Aw.
for the overall community. So it's kind of like taking that marriage notion, but using it as a way to improve and to get people unified around the city.
That's awesome.
That's kind of it was really
Do you,
awesome.
do
And
you
like I said, it
play?
was
Do
actually
you play blues?
I don't play well, I play blues in the
Do you
sense
play
of
blues, Mark?
I play blues on the radio. I'm a radio DJ, so I will play it
Yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah.
radio. Yeah. And yes, I'm a fan of everything from Southern soul to the Chicago sound to Memphis sound to some of that New Orleans
Mm.
Zydeco sound to a number of other things. I just happened to look it up. So actually the 10-year anniversary of Mary Durham would have been this year. So the actual event was done in 2011. So this is 2021. So this would have been
Oh,
the 10th year anniversary had we pulled it off. So maybe we'll have to celebrate either the 15th, or maybe we'll just pretend like the pandemic didn't happen and make the 11th or the 12th year the 10th anniversary or something like that. Who knows what we'll do in that regard? But we're going to stick to anniversary years. I guess we'll have to go for 15, which would be the next one, which would be 2026. But who knows? We might do some creative math. So
awesome.
that's what you have to do.
That's
But in
great.
terms of Dad's art, yeah, Dad is a truly great artist. Like I said, he's done everything from gourds to some art that has like some social justice statements. Like he did one that was about how we can sometimes say that we're gonna, and it was using like that the fire symbol and everything, like that you pull for the fire alarm, and it was basically a statement about how we sometimes say that we're going to give prayers when people are in disasters, and sometimes they need more than just the prayers, they need actual action. So it was a piece about basically
Mm.
saying that there's nothing wrong with the prayers, and there's nothing wrong with wishing them positivity and wishing some very positive nature of that, but sometimes what there's actually needed is action and not just some lip service. So it was his way of saying that it's all right to say that you're going to do that, but just giving lip service doesn't really help people, is kind of what that piece was about. Then he's also done
Right.
some pieces around bugs
Hmm.
and other things. So like I said, he's done and found art. So he's very diverse in his art style, and definitely, like I said, he's done shows all over North Carolina, and I think even in other parts of the Southeast as well. So like I said, he's definitely done well with his artwork, does festivals, does shows, and does a number of other things. And Mom has also not done bad, even though she's retired, but she was a leading philanthropy person here in this area. She was if you've heard of the tobacco settlement money, she was there was a foundation created out of that called the Golden Leaf Foundation, and she was their first president after she had worked for D. Smith Reynolds shortly after the radio station. So she definitely has spent a lot of time even serving on organizations that saluted women and minorities in philanthropy and nonprofits. So she definitely has done that work and has even done some TV work because he was the original host or one of the original
That's
hosts
wonderful.
of the Black Issues Forum. So I come by this entertainment and media quite honestly, even with my grandma, because grandma founded the first African American library in Raleigh way back, I want to say in the 40s. So she did that, knocking on doors and raising money when she realized that there was a lack of a library for that particular community and did not feel that that was right. So she went out there and decided to change that and all of that.
You need to
But
write a
tell me,
book on that, Mark, your family history.
oh yeah, and we've talked about that. I know definitely the radio station. There have been talks about books and movies and all kinds of stuff. But you are right; it is definitely a rich history, and that's only parts of it. I'm sure that there are other parts that I could share as well. But you're actually doing something that I have always thought would be fun to do, and you mentioned it earlier when you talked about the jingles. But how hard was it for you to get your um, music into TV, film, and things along those lines? Because I oftentimes know that people would like to do jingles. I've even thought about that myself in terms of voiceover work, not so much jingles, because like I said, I'm not a singer and or a songwriter, but definitely I thought about like that kind of voice narrative kind of work. And I actually am currently
Hmm.
working on a project similar to your puppet project, and I'll tell you about that in a minute because I think you'll find that fascinating as well. But how did you get involved in the whole um, TV, film? I guess some of this is sound scores, and some of this, as you mentioned, is jingles. So, how did you manage to find your
Well,
way into that field?
well, I do. I think that that is pretty specific field. Now, when I did my jingles, it was through the radio station that I was already working at, so it kind of was people that I knew, and I think that's probably the best way. Some people are just super talented at film scoring, and it's its own kind of a talent, and so, but I've always, I for a little while I thought, oh, I should cater to this style or that. But I think that the best thing for myself is just to write my music that I come up with, and if someone asks me to do something for them, that's what I'll do. But I don't think I'll try to pursue so much as much be available if it's there. So I think that mostly that's a pretty specific market that has a group of people that do it for the most part.
No, I
So
definitely
yeah.
agree. It's a specific audience and specific people. You actually just mentioned that earlier. What is your thoughts when people, and you had asked me about some of my own musical background, and you definitely talked about your love of Chicago and even some of the heavy metal artists and everything. But um, do you like to be categorized in a particular category? Because I know that sometimes singer songwriters get stuck in that folk singing category, but I also know that there was I think it was a legendary jazz artist that said that he just preferred the term good music and he didn't really like to be categorized either
Hmm.
as a jazz artist or any other kind of artist. He just wanted to be known for performing great music. So I was just wondering, what is your philosophy when it comes to being categorized? Do you mind if people put you into the folk or the singer songwriter category, or you like some of those other legendary artists that just want to be recognized for your talent?
I think that my goal is to make good music, and if it's folk or a jazz twinge or a little blues, ballads, that's all good with me. I don't. It doesn't matter so much as long as I'm doing my very best. I think then the music can fall where it goes. And that said, if you look at like David Bowie, for example, he started as a folk artist, but
Right.
if you just play the music a little differently, it's a rock song. And I think that music has that versatility to a point that you can make it a jazz song if you just change a few of the chords, So a strong song, I think that if the song is a strong song, um, it can change with the different various styles. And I think if I can make strong songs and make excellent songs, I'll be happy with that. It doesn't really matter to me where they might categorize it. But that said, people have a hard time categorizing my music because it kind of has lot of different turns to it. So I think I'm always exploring. I'm always trying something new. I don't feel like I have it. Like I don't feel like, okay, this is my genre, and
Mhm.
you can call me this, because I'm still sort of exploring. So
No,
that's
that
kind of
makes a
how
lot
it
of sense, and I
goes.
think we're all on that exploration journey and things along those lines. Now, I do know that you put out some holiday music as well, and a lot of times people are almost intimidated by doing that because a lot of the holiday songs are classic songs, and they are songs that
Mm,
everybody has their favorite rendition, whether it's a Nat King Cole variation or whether it's some of the other
mm.
variations that have been out there, like Frank Sinatra and some others. So were you at all worried about putting out some Christmas music, particularly when there are so many traditional Christmas songs that are become like the standards and the favorites of everybody, and some people have their own variation that they like, or did you just see that as another challenge?
Oh no, I just love to sing Christmas music, and no, I have nothing but pure pleasure singing Christmas music. There's some of those old, ballads that are just so fun to sing, and yeah. So the Christmas music, that's kind of an easy thing to do. It does, and the thing about music, and when you're an artist, taking on a song, someone else's song that they wrote, well, you can make it your song because you get into that song and you interpret the song from yourself, and that's good. To me, that's good enough. If you can interpret that song from your own perspective and from yourself, and make that song wrap around you like a blanket, then I think that you've done what you need to do for the song.
Now that makes sense. Were any of your own family members musicians, and did they encourage you or discourage you from your musical journey? And definitely, how did that whole dynamics go? Because I know sometimes our family can be our best supporters. Sometimes they can be like, "No, we don't want you to go into music. We'd rather you go become an accountant or a lawyer or something like that."
Yeah, you're right. So I have a lot of talented family members, and like generations. And then when they get together for like a dinner or whatever, everyone would sing and play and harmonize, and so a lot of talent. And my dad could play several instruments, pick them up, had perfect ear.
Hmm.
And once back was asked in LA to go to do trumpet in the studio. So he had the talent. My mom can sing beautifully, but they never ever thought music was that big of a deal. Like they would sing it, at home or in church or whatever, but my dad's a linguist, my mom's a teacher, and they're into language and helping people with their culture and keep their culture, and helping people with the love of God. So for them, music was just, it's just a little thing you do, but so they didn't really promote it, but they didn't say never do it either. I mean, they kind of left us pretty free to become who we wanted to be. We played with the all the First Nations kids,
Hmm.
and played at the lake and ate dried salmon, and um, grew up pretty free, actually really free. I mean, if you think about it, my we'd be little kids playing at the lake with no supervision. But so that said, they kind of let us develop as we did, and maybe that was a good thing for me. I wasn't micromanaged, or I mean, they had certain strict rules that we adhered to, but as far as who we were, or being successful, they never really pushed any of it or promoted it. They just wanted us to be authentic people, and true to God. So yeah, I think I had a lot of room to just discover myself on my own, and maybe that's why it took a little bit longer, because I didn't really have anyone, dictating or saying you should be this. Although I did have wonderful people that would encourage me. I think that helped a lot too. I think because you get these people, like I had this. I was telling someone the other day that I was singing in a grad ceremony. They asked me to sing
Mm.
for their grad, so I sang, and then this man stood up, and he was kind of older looking and kind of just baggy clothes, and and we're in a grad ceremony, and he stood up and he said, um, "She's gonna sing for the whole world, and she's gonna sing her
Wow.
own music, and it's gonna be beautiful." And then and everyone was. It's almost like the whole room was frozen. It was like normally you'd be upset if somebody was talking at a grad ceremony, and then it just was silent. And then I never saw that man again, and I forgot about him saying that. Um, as life went on, as time went on, and my journey had its hard times and ups and downs. But it came to me later when I was making music, and I thought that's really something, that now that sticks with me, that's a pretty special thing that man said. So,
No, no doubt about that. How important, because you mentioned your parents and some of the things that they were involved in with the First Nation people, but how important
mm,
in your own life has faith been to your journey, and how important it has? Some people might consider it faith, some people might consider it spirituality, but how important has that been to your own musical journey?
oh, it's like the first most important thing in my life, like to follow God and to follow the journey that He has. I think that you can take a lot of paths on your journey, and I've watched people's stories that if they're very selfish or
Mm.
self-ambitious, and they head on, they're going to go do their thing and get it, and then I always watch the shipwreck here and there, and it doesn't always work out, and not that any of us has made a perfect path. I mean, I've got lots of things I've gone through, but I think that when we're on this journey, for every one of us, we're finding our way, and we're kind of walking blind. Um, but I do think that if with my faith in God, that He will direct my path, even if I might not take the right exact turn in my journey. He will bring about what he designed from the beginning of time, and I think that's super cool. And that takes faith. We have to believe that God is has our best in mind, that He loves each and every one of us individually, and that every life matters, and that every life has purpose. So I've just walked that journey by faith, and watched the story, and the story's not over yet, and all of our stories. I mean, that's the beauty of being a human being and having that story in our life. So yeah, I just think that that's the absolute most wonderful positive thing, is that you can walk by faith and know that we're not alone here, and that God is totally in control and watching every life, and that if we have faith in him, in the end it will work out for good.
No, no doubt about that and everything. I've got a couple of friends that do LinkedIn shows. One of them, Brian Shulman, was a Tourette syndrome survivor, and he does like a lot of stuff around his show on Wednesdays and Saturdays around trying to celebrate joy even in pain. And I know that
Mm,
Nancy
mhm,
Barrows, who's one of his people that's also involved in that space, talks about radiating real, and it's very much an important part of her
mm,
message and everything. So I was just wondering how much of the pains that you went through, whether those were emotional pains or whether those were relationship pains or whether those were just life pains, have impacted your music. Because I think a lot of times we have to, um, one, both acknowledge the pain, but also it can be therapeutic to bring it into
mm.
our creative space, whatever that creative space is. So I was just wondering how much of that has helped you in your own musical journey.
Yeah. Well, I think that I remember, I can't remember who it was, someone way back in maybe the 1800s or something, and it was opera. And they had this amazing singer, and she came out and did her thing on the stage, and he was supposed to be the big important guy that would choose who to sing, and he he said, um, she's good, but she will be amazing when her heart gets broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a, the rose petal smells beautiful when it's crushed, and not that we long for hardship, but hardship comes to everybody. But I think it's how we handle the hardship, and it can make an artist produce more beauty if they want to overcome whatever it is. So I think that it actually enhances my music. I think it makes me a better artist, makes me more sensitive to other people and what they're going through and the struggles that so many people suffer. It does break your heart. I think that's one of the reasons I do what I do too. Is it's the gift I have that I can go serve someone and hopefully make their day better, and um, you know touch their heart and touch their soul and show them that there's hope, and that we're not alone, and there's a huge purpose in our lives, everybody's life. So yeah, I think that suffering actually turns into something good if we where we if we can give it back, and use it for something good.
No, I agree with that. How, along those same lines, how important, because I consider myself, even though I don't have any at the moment, to be definitely a pet lover and to some degree an animal lover. But I was just wondering, how important do you think it is for your music to also reach out and be able to be in tune with whatever Mother Nature and the entire environment is bringing out there as well? Because I know that a lot of times musicians are very much in tune with what's
Mm.
around them in terms of the environment. So I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
Well, I think that I know that there's a lot of things going on in the world, but I think that God is in control, and um, that if you look at history, the world is always changing,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in a planet that's always changing. Um, the ice age was in one place at one time and moved. So I think that the bigger things like that, I leave them to God, and I ask for a good journey for everyone, and I ask for um, the best that life can be for where we're at. Uh, but I think some things are bigger than us, and that we can't control things, and we're pretty small compared to the universe. So I think I'll leave the big problems to God, and I'll do my part here and in my area and where I can. But I think mainly, if we can realize that we're made to be eternal beings, and that this world is a temporary place. So I think that if we can understand that, we can have some peace of mind that God's in control.
No, I definitely agree with that. If you could have the opportunity to perform with anybody that is, well, first off, anybody that's living, but if you had had the opportunity to work with anybody that had passed, who would those be and everything? So, like you said, if you could work with somebody that was a living musician, who would that be? And along those same lines, if there was a musician that is no longer here that you wish that you had had that opportunity to work with, who would that have been?
Well, um, I I don't know about those that are in the maybe Patsy Cline. I would have loved to sing a song with Patsy Cline for sure. She's got a beautiful voice, but um, I would say I'm working with some pretty amazing people right now. I'm very grateful for. I've worked with Alvin Taylor, who's worked with Fleetwood Mac, and um, I've worked with Tony Franklin, who's a world famous bass player. He's just amazing. And I'm working with some really top artists right now that I just adore. I have always loved their playing and style. So I'm pretty happy with what's happening now. I think singing. I love to harmonize to great vocalists. So maybe some maybe sing with Barbara Streisand or somebody. But I love to harmonize with a great vocalist, so that's kind of fun. And that's one thing you can't do when you're in the studio, right? You're not around all these great musicians so much. But I love Stevie Wonder, like I said, and yeah, I'd sing with him. So sure, there's a lot of great talent out there. Just getting to connect vocally would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
No doubt about that. How many instruments? I'm seeing you in your studio and everything. So, how many instruments do you know how to play? Because, like I said, I'm seeing a variety of guitars of different sorts, and definitely the keyboard that is there. So, how many different instruments do you know how to play, and do you consider yourself proficient in all of them?
No, I'm good. I can play the guitar and the piano, enough to play for myself and write my music. And I have an accordion back here that I super love. It's got a great little sound. I can put candy in some of my songs. I've got a nice little lap steel there. So, and I've picked it up, but I'm not proficient at it. No. But yeah, we got lots of instruments in here, and lots of instruments need a little bit more time. But yeah, mostly just the piano and the guitar.
Definitely, it sounds like that. And I think that our audience would definitely love to hear some of your music. So, can we get treated to maybe a little bit of your singing right now or a little bit of your performance? Because I'm sure that they would love to see that and maybe even get tired of seeing my face. So, I can give you full screen and maybe we can have you play a little bit for us.
All right, sure. Thank you. So I thought since you're a blues show, I'd do something a little bit more um, along that line. Not that this is blues, but this is a song. So you were talking about suffering, and this is a song called "I'm a Poem." And I think that for artists, we're always being poured out, not so much for ourselves, but to share what we've gone through to help other people, to bring other people a better quality of life, and to give them understanding. Um, and I also think that music itself is the vibrations of music are so um, unique in themselves and bring a lot of healing. So this song's called "I'm a Poem." I'm a poem, woven colors, red and blue. I'm a ballad, I'm a sonnet, I'm a tune, portrait being put out on the table. How about you? Simple woven melody, a promise wrapped in blue. I'm a free verse, quatrain melody. How about you? Being made into a painting, being made into a portrait, being poured out on the table. How about you? That's called
Wow.
I'm a Poem.
Wow, that was beautiful. I was definitely enjoying that, enjoying the sound and everything. So that was totally beautiful. As I was looking at the screen and everything and seeing all of those pictures behind you, I was wondering what the story was behind some of those because you've got a lot of pictures and things that are behind that piano. So I was wondering what some of the stories behind those were as well.
Well, thank you, Mark. Those a lot of those are just my CDs that we've accomplished already. I have 4 CDs and a whole bunch of singles that we have to make a new CD for. I think over 30 maybe new singles, but also just a picture of my former band and um, then some paintings that I made myself. But mostly just knickknacks. You can see little collecting musical instruments everywhere. So yeah.
If you had a chance to play an instrument that you don't play, what would that instrument be? Like I know some people have said that they would love to learn how to play the sitar, and some people have said that they learned how to play, and I mentioned that earlier, the kettle drums. So, is there an instrument that you wish you knew how to play that you have not either picked up yet, or that you hope to pick up at some point or another?
Yeah, that's a great, uh, maybe the harmonica.
Okay. Yeah, the harmonica is
Do you
definitely a
play the
great.
harmonica, Mark?
I do not play the harmonica, but I've got some friends that are totally into that, or as they like to call it, the mouth harp, and it is truly a wonderful instrument. So definitely, I could see where you would do great as a harmonica player. No doubt about that. I could see you doing amazing in that regard. So I think that that would be
Oh, thank you.
truly amazing if we got you to play the harmonica, and that would be a maybe that could have you even create a exclusively blues album as well. Is there a favorite? Because we mentioned it
That would
earlier,
be fun.
holiday song that you enjoy? Because I think our audience, we are in the month of December, would love to hear a holiday song, and particularly if there is a favorite holiday song of yours.
Um, I love What Child Is This? I love Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. And have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Wow,
And I mean that.
no doubt. What was your favorite holiday memory? I'm sure that you've probably had some growing up, or maybe even some in your adult years. So, what were some of your favorite holiday memories?
Well, I think as kids, my dad always made Christmas special and he'd make us wait to open our presents. So he'd sit us all down and tell the Christmas story, and it seemed like it took forever. And then but it was special because we had a real close family time, and everybody could say what one thing they were thankful for, and then we'd open our stockings, and we'd have to wait till the morning to open the presents. So we kept that anticipation going, as well as just keeping close family. Um, we took the time to make that family moment, and it wasn't a big rushed thing. So I think maybe growing up as a child, I liked my Christmas. I think they kept the magic in it. And
Mhm.
but I enjoy Christmas now. I'm one of those that still loves Christmas, and I don't have any humbug about Christmas. It's a fun, special. You can feel that magic in the air, and people are giving more, and they're happy, and they're anticipating things. I know it can be a very difficult time for some people, and I understand that, and my heart goes out, to that, because I know it can be a very difficult time, but for what it is, if we could just embrace that and just enjoy that, feel those good vibes and hang on to those, I think that's a good thing.
No, I definitely agree. That's a beautiful thing, and definitely we need to hang on to more of those positive things in life and all of that. Are there any
Mhm.
particular Christmas wishes in terms of gifts or desired gifts that you are looking for this Christmas, either giving and or receiving? 'Cause like I said, I don't know what your own family dynamics are, but maybe there's gifts that you're hoping to give either to your parents or if you have any kids to them as well. But are there any particular gifts that you are hoping to either receive and or give?
Well, I love to give gifts. That's just so fun. So I give as much as I can, much as my pocket will afford. I love to give to as many loved ones as I can. I love it when people help the homeless and help people with a dinner for Christmas. I love all those kinds of things, and people loving on one another, and bringing families to hopefully together. That would be what I would love. But for myself, I my Christmas gift, one of them is that I've got it's a song I'm just super excited about. I've got a super top artist playing amazing guitar on. I can't wait. So I'm happy. I'm happy with good meals and good music and good friends, and I'm happy. Yeah, you bet.
No, that sounds like a great thing to have in your life, those good friends and those good memories and all of that. Have you ever done any of that work? It's been years since I've done it, but I have definitely done it in the past where you've actually gone to the shelters or gone to the places where they are trying to serve
Mm.
those that are less fortunate. And if you've had that experience, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to help out at the Salvation Army quite a bit. We loved doing that, and Randall, my husband, engineers, did breakfast. They'd get up super early and make dinner or breakfast for years for people, street people. So yeah, I've my heart is always there for that, and I think that when you give, you get. You get. It's a funny thing about when you give, it's like it increases your wealth. When you can give to other people and help other people, it expands you. It expands your borders, and expands your love. So yeah, whenever I'm able to give in whatever way, I just find that just a real blessing in itself.
No, no doubt about that. That's a great blessing and a blessing that we need to do more often and things along those lines. Not going to hold you up much longer. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and everything, and I definitely hope that you'll give us at
Oh,
least
thanks, Mark.
one more treat in music and everything because I've definitely thoroughly enjoyed it. And there is a two questions that I usually ask at the end of all interviews, and you can think about those as you're thinking about what song you want to play as well. But it's usually how folks can reach you in the terms of getting in contact with you. And I know one way is the website, which is the Rachel Walker Trio and they can definitely go to that. But any other social media that you want folks to know about you and about your musical journey and things along those lines. And then the question that I always ask people is their message of positivity, their message of hope. Because, like I said, the international broadcast media is heard in about 150 countries and in all 50 states in one form or fashion or another. So I'm sure that people will be listening from places as far away as Australia, South Africa, Malaysia, and a number of other places. And of course, throughout the United States. So any messages of positivity and hope that you want to leave them. But I don't want you to go anywhere until we get at least one more song.
You bet. So I would just say, you know what? You're not alone. God loves us all, and this is not the end, my friends. This is just the beginning of a journey that can last forever. So just be encouraged and know that your journey it matters, and that you will find your way if you want to just look a little higher. And this song is for you. It's called Lifeline.
Thank you.
Throw me a lifeline, a lifeline, a lifeline. Throw me a lifeline, a lifeline, a lifeline. Throw me a lifeline from your heart to my hand. Let these strings take us to the shore. Sweet, sweet melodies that end with the breeze that will stand. Let her play and tell me there's more to this song that I don't know. Let her play and tell me there's more to this song that I don't know. Whoa, 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 whoa. Won't you throw me a lifeline from your heart to my hand? Let these strings take us to another land, playing sweet melodies that end with a bridge that will stay. Let her play and tell me there's more to the song that I don't know. Let her play and tell me there's more to this song that I don't know. Whoa, 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 whoa. I feel the waves on our shore as they cover me once more. I feel the waves on our shore as they cover me once more. Let her play and tell me there's more to this song that I don't know. Let her play and tell me there's more to the song that I don't know. Whoa, 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 won't you throw me a lifeline? Throw me a lifeline. Throw me a lifeline, a lifeline, a lifeline. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Lifeline, 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 lifeline. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Lifeline, 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 lifeline. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, lifeline.
Wow, truly amazing as always. Great job, great song. I really thoroughly enjoyed that song and glad that you sent that out to me because I definitely believe in trying to be a lifeline to many's in terms of being a networker and a connector and things along those lines, and trying to be a positive force for good in the world. So definitely I know about those lifelines, both getting them as well as receiving them. And I did think, because that's the problem with us people in the journalism field, as Eric probably told you, is that we oftentimes think of questions later on as the course of the conversation goes. So I did think of two other quick ones that I want to ask you and everything. And one of them I ask a lot of my guests as well, which is, how do you deal with the naysayers? Because I know a lot of times we can deal with our both inner critic as well as the outer critic. So I was wondering how you deal with that, times where you are doubting yourself and your skill set, as well as those that might not be as supportive as you would like. So those naysayers as well as that inner critic. Because I know that even in my own life, I have talked myself out of jobs that I probably should have gone for because I let the inner critic be heard. Rachel,
Is that what it is?
hello? I heard her. Can you hear me now? Well, I heard her a minute ago and then she stopped. I will put it in chat because I don't know what just happened. I was asking
No, your computer's on.
the inner.
Oh,
Uh, I don't know if you heard that question I was asking about. I was asking about the inner critic and how you deal with that and everything. So I don't know if you heard that question or not. Can you hear me? It might have been something that he did on his side. Having a nice fun.
there you are.
Yep. Hey there. I was asking about the inner critic and how you deal with that and everything. Because, like I said, I was loving that lifelong song, but I was just wondering how you deal with the inner critic and how you face that inner critic that we sometimes face. Because sometimes we let ourselves talk ourselves out of positive things. So I was just wondering how you dealt with the inner critic and maybe any of those naysayers that can also be in our life. I know that you definitely mentioned your family is very positive, but that doesn't mean that there can't be outside influences that can be naysayers. So I was just wondering how you deal with either one of those.
Sure. Well, you're going to always have naysayers. Like, that's just part of the journey. And there was a time when that really did make me extremely shy and introverted and not confident enough to bring my music out. But I've come through that, and I understand that not everyone will be you know your fan or whatever, or want or find the music means something for them, but it doesn't matter because it's who you are, it's your authentic self. And you know what, it's meant for some people, and it's meant for those, and for those I sing, and I go and I work and do these things to bring it to them. And so it's okay, you're not always going to bat 100%, but it's okay because sometimes just one or two are really really important. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's all good now.
And what about that inner critic? Because I know sometimes we can be our own, particularly in the creative field, our own worst enemies in the sense that we will self doubt. Like I said, I've even been guilty of that myself, where
Mhm.
I probably talk myself out of jobs. So how do you deal with that inner critic as well?
Yeah, I think that we all have it, especially if you're an artist and you're sensitive at all.
Mhm.
You will doubt yourself, and it's really wonderful because there's always, just when you're maybe feeling really low about yourself or whatever, there's always those encouraging words that just somehow manage to come at a good time, and there's you got some support from a few people, can really make a difference. And it's funny how God kind of puts them there when you need them. Because the journey isn't easy. Like, it's not easy to be an artist and produce art and bring it out there to people, and you will face opposition, but you know what, you just stand peacefully, in your place that you've been given, and those things will dissipate on their own.
No, no doubt. What advice would you give to other people that are thinking that they want to be artists, thinking that they want to go into this difficult journey, whether it's visual arts or whether it's music, which you are definitely part of? So, what advice would you give to young people that are thinking that they want to be artists?
You if it is what your heart's desire is, and it's what you are gifted in, then you must do it, and you must just follow that journey, and stay true to it, but be wise, and don't make it your idol. You
Mhm.
need to live a whole life, and be honest with yourself, but you will, if it is something that you're meant to do and it is your journey, then you just have to keep going forward, and follow the journey that you're given, because that's, I think that's everybody's story on earth. It's a journey that we have to discover, and we're not going to get it all handed to us, or are we going to know what our future is meant to hold, but we need to discover the journey, and that's part of the joy of life, and part of the joy of living is discovering yourself and finding out who you were meant to be, and where your story goes, and everybody's story is worth reading. So just keep going, and don't get discouraged. Just perfect your craft and keep moving forward, and love it. Love what you do.
Oh, that makes sense. How important do you think it is to be musically trained? I know that you talked about your own journey and everything, but here in Durham, we've got both Duke University and North Carolina Central University, which is an HBCU, but both of them have strong music departments. So definitely some of our
Mm.
musicians have been trained in those kind of fields, but then we've also had some musicians that have done quite well by doing kind of that whole concept of just doing it in their garage or becoming self-learned and things along those lines. So, how important do you think it is to have classical musical training and that kind of more traditional education musically?
Well, I think if you can get the training, it's a great thing. It's a gift. I'm not classically trained. I did have my even though my dad majored in music in university and got straight A's in it. I We were in a small little village where there weren't any music teachers or anything. So a lot of my senses were developed just by hearing sound, and learning. So that has its own benefit when you can play by ear. But that said, man, there's so many times I'll play a chord, and it's a chord way beyond me, and I wish I knew how to write it down, and yet I can play it, and I love those chords, but I can't write it down, and I really think that's a gift too. So yeah, any knowledge is a tool, that can just make you better at what you do, if you stay true to what your gifts are.
No, I agree. And I know a lot of people have been complaining about our education system because, unfortunately, both here and I guess in Canada, a lot of times when things are cut, the first things that are cut are the musical programs because
Mm.
I don't know that they understand the importance of music and even other forms of art in the sense of developing critical thinking and other things that are very important to us. So, what would your message be to educators and to just the world in general about the importance of music education?
Oh my goodness, it's so important. I mean, what's life without art? So, like you might know something you can rattle off, but where's the beauty in life? I mean, life is made, it's meant to be a beautiful journey. We can keep the beauty in our journey. And if you take the arts and the music out, I mean, you're really taking the soul out of life, because it's where all beauty is. And you know what, it also is where creativity and genius comes from, for new ideas and solving problems. It's way more than just something to cut, so don't cut it.
No, I agree. Definitely don't need to cut it. Need to give it as much support as we can give it. And the last thing I was going to bring up, and you mentioned it earlier, you talked about your husband being in the music as well. I'm, like I said, about to hit that big six number next year, and I'm still into that single space and everything. But sometimes when I have conversations with friends of mine, sometimes they say that you should find a significant other that is in the same field, that is a fellow creative. But then I've also heard
Hmm.
others that argue that that can be a nightmare. But then again, I see people like Dolly Parton and her husband who have been together forever and everything. And there are some other examples similar to Dolly and her husband. But I was just wondering, what would your advice be in terms of working together as a couple when you are both in the creative space? And do you think that that is something that is a benefit to y'all, or has it been kind of a headache as well, for lack of a better term?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. So, when you're creative and sensitive and you're in that creative space and it's intense, you can get a little touchy with each other if you live with the person. But that said, you you're making this piece of art together, and there's a special um, wonder in all that. So I think that I think it's great if you can be with a partner that you can share the same interests. But I mean, with whether they're a partner that you share the same interests or you don't, just learn to get to be gentle with each other. It's all about learning how to be gentle with each other and love one another, and don't lose that respect because it goes for the long haul. Treat each other with respect. Don't forget that this person is a special person in your life that you get to have right there with you, and it's real easy to turn into arguing and fighting over nothing, but you can be strong. You can be the strong one and turn it into something good, and people respond to how you treat them. So it's important for all of us, like it's important for me to be respectful and gentle. I think that that would it would go a lot bigger than just in a family circle if we could all learn to be a little bit more gentle with one another and care about each other. I think that would go a long way.
No, no doubt about that. Is there any final parting thoughts that you would like to leave people with? And of course, if you want to leave with one more song, I will not argue with that in the least bit as well. But any final parting thoughts that you want to leave? And if there's a last song that you want to leave as well, then I'm sure our audience would love that and definitely would appreciate that, because I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and hope that you will
Aw,
come back. Because definitely, whenever I have
thank you, Mark.
amazing guests, I always love to have them come back whenever they're ever able to, and all of that. So just consider this another home, and hopefully you will make a return trip. Maybe
Thank
you'll
you, Mark.
bring the other half or the rest of the band with you as well. But anytime that y'all want to come back, I would love to have you back. But any final parting thoughts that you have, and if you would love to treat us with one more song, that would be lovely as well.
Thank you, Mark, so much. Well, I just man, I'm just a musician here, but there's always hope. Um, it's never hopeless. And that's not true. And every one of us matters. And I think if we just pull together and love each other and learn how to work around, the difficult things, we'll have the journey we're meant to have. And so this song, I'll dedicate this song to you, Mark. This song is a song I wrote for a friend of mine, well, one of my band members, when I had the trio for 7 years, and he was married before and then he remarried, so he finally found the love of his life, and it was later and she had some kids, but this song's called "We Will Go On." used to see two, now one, my love. We will go on from here, here, here. We will go on from here. And all that I have is yours, my love. And all that we have is ours. We will go on from here, here, here. We will go on from here. I see your face in the morning, and I love your smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that we will spend our lives together, 'cause you are my life. Used to see two, now one, my love. Thank
Wow,
you.
that was beautiful. Great music. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And as always, this has been a definite treat. Glad that Eric sent me another amazing guest and all of that. So I'm going to actually switch one of these banners here so that I can grab one of our other spots, including our PSA and the plane that we use to get on out of here and all of that. So that's how we usually use this thing to get our um whole view of getting out and ending a show and all of that. So getting ready to bring that whole thing along so that folks can check that out and thoroughly enjoy this amazing artist. Like I said, Rachel, definitely hope that I can get you back on in the not too distant future, because it was a truly amazing conversation and I was just glad to have you on and a part of this show, and look forward to having you back on in the not too distant future, because you are a truly amazing artist and I thoroughly enjoyed having you on. So I'm going to end with a PSA and the plane that we use to get on out of here and all of that. Actually, I think I'm going to bring up the ambassador when she was a couple of years young and everything, which is actually one of our producers from India, his daughter, that gave us all those tips about hand washing and things that we should do, including covering our mouth and everything. So I think I'll do the PSA, the ambassador, because everybody loves the ambassador, even though that was done about 2 years ago when she does that whole thing with the doll, and it was one of those ragtime dolls and everything. So everybody, usually when I play that, I think I'll play that first, because I haven't seen a person yet, woman or man, that doesn't enjoy this particular ad. So I'll bring that on, then the PSA, and then the airplane to get us on out of here. But I think you'll enjoy this, Rachel. Let's check out what Mishi has to say about things we should be doing in the sense of washing our hands and all of that.
कोरोना वायरस से कैसे बचेंगे? ये हैंड धोकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे, अच्छू अच्छू, और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
Everybody just loves that
How cute.
you and that ragtime and how cute she was. Like I said, I think that was about 2 years old, so she's gotten a little bit older, but she still has that kind of view and everything. And then we've got this one that is kind of a warning about driving and all of that, and then the airplane to get us on out of here.
What's the coolest thing about your job?
Engineers take the very best of science and technology and solve problems.
Did you know all that stuff when you were my age?
All I knew is that I really liked math and I really liked science.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.